I married Richard when I was 32, thinking stability would fill the emptiness left by my first marriage. He was 15 years older, successful, kind in his distant way, but the spark we had faded fast. Now, 6 years later, our bed feels more like a shared obligation than a place of passion. He travels constantly for work, leaving the house quiet, too quiet. I fill the days with routines, cooking elaborate dinners no one eats together, tending the garden until my hands are stained with soil, pretending everything is fine. The silence between us has become louder than any argument. Alex moved in last spring after graduating college. Richard's son from his first marriage, 21 now, tall and broad-shouldered from years of casual gym sessions, with the same dark hair and quiet eyes as his father but none of the guarded distance. He's polite, almost painfully so, always offering to help with dishes or carrying groceries. At first I treated him like any stepson, maternal, careful, keeping a respectful space. But living under the same roof changes things. You notice details you shouldn't. The way his t-shirt clings after a shower, the low timbre of his laugh when he watches something funny on his phone, how he smells faintly of cedar and clean laundry when he passes close in the hallway. I told myself it was harmless observation. Everyone notices attractive people. But the noticing grew heavier. During dinner when Richard was away, Alex and I would talk, really talk. About his job search, his uncertainty about the future, how hard it was to meet someone genuine. He never mentioned girlfriends, never brought anyone home. One night, over leftover pasta, he admitted he'd never had a serious relationship. The words hung between us, simple and loaded. I felt a strange protectiveness, mixed with something warmer, something I immediately pushed down. Weeks passed. The house felt smaller. I caught myself lingering when he worked out in the garage, the rhythmic clank of weights carrying through the open door. I'd find excuses to be nearby, bringing him water, asking if he needed anything. Each time our fingers brushed handing over the glass, a current ran up my arm. I hated how alive it made me feel. Then came the night that shifted everything. Richard was gone again, another week-long conference. It was past 11. I was in the living room with a glass of wine, scrolling mindlessly, when Alex appeared in the doorway wearing gray sweatpants and a plain black tee. He hesitated, rubbed the back of his neck. "Can I talk to you about something?" His voice was low, uncertain. I set the glass down. "Of course. Sit." He sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on knees, staring at the floor. "It's embarrassing," he started. "I've never been with anyone." "Not really. I mean, I've kissed girls, but that's it. And I'm supposed to be an adult, but every time I think about dating I freeze. I don't want to mess it up. I don't even know where to start." His cheeks flushed. He wouldn't meet my eyes. My heart thudded hard against my ribs. I should have said something safe, suggested he talk to friends, read a book, take it slow. Instead I heard myself say, "It's okay to feel that way. A lot of people do." He looked up then, relief and something else in his gaze. "You don't think it's pathetic?" "No," I said softly. "I think it's honest." Silence stretched. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. He swallowed. "I keep thinking, maybe if someone showed me, not just told me, someone I'd trust, someone who wouldn't laugh or judge." The air thickened. My pulse roared in my ears. I knew exactly what he was asking, even if he hadn't said the words yet. Part of me screamed to shut this down, to stand up, to leave the room. But another part, the part that had been starving for years, leaned forward. "What are you asking me, Alex?" He finally met my eyes, steady now despite the tremor in his voice. "I'm asking if you'd help me. With my first time. Just once. So I'm not so scared anymore." The room seemed to shrink to the space between us. My mouth went dry. I should have said no. I should have reminded him who I was, who his father was. Instead I felt heat bloom low in my belly, a rush of forbidden want I hadn't allowed myself to name until that moment. I didn't answer right away. I let the question hang, let it settle into both of us. Then, quietly, I said, "Let me think about it." But we both knew I was already past thinking. The next morning I woke up before dawn, the sheets tangled around my legs, my skin still humming from the night before. I hadn't said yes. I hadn't said no. But the question lived inside me now, heavy and insistent. Every time I closed my eyes I saw Alex's face. Vulnerable, hopeful, flushed, and felt the pull low in my stomach again. I told myself it was wrong. I repeated the reasons like a mantra. He's your stepson, Richard trusts you, this could destroy everything. None of it stopped the heat that spread when I thought about touching him. I avoided him that day. I left early for the grocery store, lingered in the aisles, came home when I knew he'd be at his part-time job. But the house felt charged even when he wasn't there. His hoodie slung over the chair, his running shoes by the door, the faint trace of his cologne on the couch, they all reminded me. By evening my nerves were raw. When he walked in, hair damp from the gym, wearing that fitted gray shirt that showed the lines of his chest, I had to grip the counter to steady myself. We ate dinner in near silence. Richard was still gone. The table felt too big. Alex kept glancing at me, waiting. I could see the question in his eyes, the same one he'd asked last night. I couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. After we cleared the plates he followed me into the kitchen, leaning against the island while I rinsed dishes. "So," he said quietly, "did you think about it?" My hands stilled under the water. I turned off the faucet, dried them slowly. "Yes. And?" I turned to face him. He stood closer than necessary, close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off his body. "I don't know if this is something we should do," I said, even though my voice sounded thin, unconvincing. He didn't move away. "I'm not asking for forever. Just help. So I don't feel like I'm fumbling in the dark when it matters. You're the only person I trust enough to ask." The honesty in his voice cracked something open inside me. I'd spent years feeling invisible in my own marriage. Richard barely looked at me anymore. Here was someone who saw me, really saw me, and wanted me to see him back. The loneliness I'd buried rose up sharp and sudden. I stepped closer. "If we do this, it's once. Only once. And then we never speak of it again." His eyes darkened. "I understand." I reached out, touched his arm. His skin was warm, slightly damp from the shower he'd taken after the gym. My fingers lingered. "Not tonight," I said. "Tomorrow. When your father's flight lands late. We'll have the house." He nodded, throat working. "Tomorrow." The rest of the evening passed in a haze of tension. We sat on the couch watching some mindless show, but neither of us paid attention. Our legs brushed once, twice. Each contact sent a jolt through me. When he finally went upstairs I stayed downstairs, heart racing, trying to convince myself I could still back out. Couldn't. The next day dragged. I cleaned the house obsessively, scrubbed counters, changed sheets, lit candles I immediately blew out because they felt too obvious. Every sound made me jump. When the storm rolled in late afternoon, dark clouds swallowing the sun, it felt like the weather knew what was coming. Thunder rumbled distant at first, then closer. Lightning flashed and the power cut out. I found him in the hallway, phone flashlight on, looking for candles. We met in the dim glow. Rain hammered the windows. The house felt sealed, private, ours. "We don't have to wait for tomorrow," he said, voice rough. I looked at him, really looked. His hair was messy from running his hands through it. His shirt clinging slightly from the humidity. Desire hit me like a wave. I stepped forward, cupped his face. His breath caught. "Show me," he whispered. Kissed him. Started slow, careful. His lips were soft, hesitant. I guided him, tilting his head, deepening it until he groaned low in his throat. His hands found my waist, tentative at first, then firmer. I pressed against him, felt how hard he already was, and a rush of power and need flooded me. We moved to the living room couch. The storm covered every sound. I pulled his shirt over his head, traced the lines of his chest, the faint trail of hair disappearing into his waistband. He watched me with wide eyes, breathing fast. I straddled him, rocked slowly, letting him feel me through our clothes. His hands slid under my top, palms hot on my skin. "Is this okay?" he asked, voice shaking. "More than okay," I murmured against his mouth. I took his hand, guided it between my legs. Showed him how to touch, how slow, how firm. His fingers learned fast. When I gasped his name, he grew bolder, circling, pressing. Pleasure coiled tight inside me. I rocked against his hand until I shattered, biting my lip to stay quiet. After, I slid to my knees between his legs. I looked up at him as I undid his jeans, pulled them down. He was thick, hard, already leaking. I took him in my mouth slowly, savoring the way he groaned, the way his hips jerked. I taught him patience, drawing it out until he was trembling, begging. When I finally stood, stripped off my clothes, and led him upstairs to my bedroom. Our bedroom, the storm was at its peak. Lightning lit the room in flashes. I pushed him onto the bed, climbed over him. "Ready?" he asked. He nodded, eyes locked on mine. I sank down slowly, taking him inch by inch. He filled me perfectly. We both moaned at the same moment. I moved gently at first, letting him adjust, then faster, harder. His hands gripped my hips, guiding me. Sweat slicked our skin. The bed creaked under us. I leaned down, kissed him deep, tasting salt and want. When he came, it was sudden, powerful. His whole body tensing beneath me. I followed seconds later, clenching around him, riding the waves until we were both spent. We lay tangled together, breathing hard, rain still pounding outside. He whispered, "Thank you." I pressed my forehead to his. "Don't thank me yet." Because even in the afterglow, I knew nothing would ever be the same. The storm had passed, leaving only the soft patter of leftover rain against the windows. The house was dark except for the faint glow from the hallway nightlight spilling under the bedroom door. I stood in the doorway of the master bedroom, robe loose around my shoulders, heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it from downstairs. Alex waited at the foot of the stairs, shirtless now, jeans low on his hips. His chest rose and fell quickly. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. I stepped back, letting him follow me inside. The door clicked shut behind us, quiet, final. Moonlight slipped through the half-open blinds, striping the bed in silver. I turned to face him. His eyes were wide, dark, hungry in a way that made my knees weak. I reached out first, fingers brushing his jaw, then sliding into his hair. He leaned into the touch like he'd been waiting for it his whole life. Our mouths met again, slower this time, deeper. No hesitation. His tongue found mine, tentative at first, then bolder as he learned the rhythm. I tasted mint from his toothpaste, felt the heat of his breath against my lips. My robe slipped from my shoulders, pooling at my feet. His hands explored, palms skimming my waist, cupping my breasts, thumbs circling my nipples until they tightened into hard points. I arched into him, moaning softly against his mouth. I guided him backward until the backs of his legs hit the mattress. He sat, then lay down, pulling me with him. I straddled his hips, feeling him hard and straining beneath the denim. My fingers worked the button, the zipper. He lifted his hips to help, breath hitching when I freed him. I wrapped my hand around his length, stroking slowly, watching his face, eyes fluttering shut, lips parting on a low groan. He was thick, velvet over steel, already slick at the tip. I leaned down, took him into my mouth again, deeper this time. His hips jerked, fingers tangled in my hair. Not pulling, just holding on. "Elena," he gasped. My name on his lips sent a fresh wave of heat through me. I released him with a slow drag of my tongue, climbed higher, positioned myself above him. His hands gripped my thighs, thumbs stroking the sensitive skin. I reached between us, guided him to my entrance. We were both soaked, ready. I sank down inch by inch, feeling every ridge, every pulse. When he was fully inside me, we both froze, breathing ragged. The stretch was perfect, overwhelming. I rocked gently at first, letting him adjust, letting myself adjust to the fullness, the forbidden heat of it. His hands roamed, up my sides, over my breasts, down to my hips. He thrust up to meet me, clumsy at first, then finding a rhythm. I braced my hands on his chest, nails digging in as I rode him harder. The bed creaked beneath us. Skin slapped against skin. Sweat beaded between my breasts, trickled down my spine. His eyes never left mine, dark, awed, desperate. I leaned forward, kissed him fiercely while grinding down. He wrapped his arms around me, one hand splayed across my lower back, the other cradling my neck. We moved together now, frantic, chasing the edge. Pleasure coiled tight in my core, building. His breaths came in short pants against my throat. "I'm close," he whispered, voice strained. "Me too," I breathed. "Let go. Come inside me." That was all it took. His hips snapped up hard once, twice. He groaned my name, body locking tight as he spilled deep. The feel of him pulsing triggered my own release. Sharp, blinding waves crashing through me until I trembled above him, clenching around him, milking every last shudder. We collapsed together, limbs tangled, hearts pounding against each other. His arms stayed around me tight, like he was afraid I'd disappear. I buried my face in his neck, inhaling the scent of him. Sweat, sex, cedar. For long minutes we just breathed, the room quiet except for the slowing rain and hour. Slowing breath. He kissed my temple, soft, reverent. I didn't know it could feel like that. I lifted my head, met his eyes. They were glassy, vulnerable. Something twisted in my chest. Guilt, tenderness, a fierce protectiveness. I brushed damp hair from his forehead. "It's okay," I murmured, even though nothing felt okay anymore. He pulled me down beside him, tucking me against his side. His fingers traced lazy circles on my back. I listened to his heartbeat steady, felt the warmth of his skin against mine. In that suspended moment, with the world locked outside, it almost felt right. Almost like love instead of betrayal. But dawn was coming. Richard's flight would land in a few hours. Reality waited just beyond the door. I closed my eyes, holding him tighter, pretending for one more minute that we could stay like this forever. Morning light filtered through the blinds in thin, pale stripes across the rumpled sheets. I woke first, body heavy with the kind of exhaustion that follows release. Alex slept beside me, face turned toward me, lips slightly parted, one arm draped across my waist like he was still afraid I'd slip away. His breathing was slow, even. For a moment I let myself watch him, the faint stubble along his jaw, the way his lashes cast shadows on his cheeks. He looked younger in sleep, almost innocent again. The sight twisted something sharp in my chest. I slipped out of bed carefully, not wanting to wake him yet. My legs felt unsteady as I padded to the bathroom. The mirror showed a woman I barely recognized. Hair wild, lips swollen, faint red marks on my neck where he'd kissed too hard. I touched one gently, felt heat rise again despite the guilt already creeping in. I splashed cold water on my face, brushed my teeth, tried to wash away the night. Didn't work. When I returned, he was stirring. He blinked up at me, sleepy smile breaking across his face. "Hey! Hey!" I sat on the edge of the mattress, robe pulled tight around me. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. His thumb stroked my knuckles. "Last night was incredible. You were incredible." I managed a small smile. "You did pretty well yourself." He laughed softly, then sobered. "Are you okay?" I looked down at our joined hands. "I don't know yet." Silence settled between us. Heavy. Real. The clock on the nightstand ticked toward the moment Richard's plane would touch down. I could picture him, briefcase in hand, tired smile, expecting the same quiet house he'd left. The thought made my stomach knot. Alex sat up, sheet pooling around his waist. "We don't have to tell anyone. Ever. It can just be ours." I met his eyes. They were earnest, hopeful. Part of me wanted to believe it could stay that way. Our secret tucked away like something precious. But secrets have weight. They grow. They leak. I need to think, I said. Alone. He nodded, didn't push. He dressed quietly while I watched from the doorway. When he finished, he stepped close, cupped my face, kissed me once, slow, lingering goodbye in every brush of lips. Whatever happens, thank you. For trusting me. For everything. Then he was gone, slipping downstairs, out the back door before the neighborhood woke. I heard the soft click of the latch, felt the house empty in a way it hadn't before. The rest of the morning passed in a blur. I stripped the bed, washed the sheets twice, sprayed the room with lavender until it smelled like nothing had happened. I showered until the water ran cold. When Richard walked through the front door that afternoon, suitcase rolling behind him, I met him in the hallway with a kiss that felt mechanical. Good trip. Yes. Long missed you. He squeezed my shoulder, headed upstairs to unpack. I stood there, listening to his footsteps overhead, the familiar creak of the floorboards. Alex was in his room now, door closed. We didn't look at each other during dinner. Richard talked about meetings, clients, the weather in Chicago. I nodded, smiled past the salad. Alex kept his eyes on his plate. Every time our forks clinked or our elbows brushed reaching for the bread, electricity sparked. I hated how much I still wanted it. Days turned into a week. We were careful, too careful. No more lingering glances in the kitchen. No accidental touches. But the tension never faded. Thickened. At night I lay awake beside Richard, listening to his snores, remembering Alex's hands, his mouth, the way he'd looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. Guilt gnawed, but so did longing. I caught myself touching the marks on my neck before they faded completely, pressing fingers to them like reminders. One evening Richard left for another short trip. The house felt dangerous again. Alex knocked on my bedroom door after midnight. Opened it. He didn't speak. Just stepped inside, closed the door, pulled me into his arms. We didn't make it to the bed that time. Clothes hit the floor in seconds. It was faster, hungrier, more desperate. When it was over we lay on the carpet, breathing hard, my head on his chest. I can't stop thinking about you, he whispered. Me neither. But we both knew it couldn't last. The risk was too high. Richard wasn't blind forever. A month later Alex announced he'd found an apartment downtown. A roommate, a lease, independence. Richard clapped him on the back, proud. I smiled through the ache in my throat. The day he moved out, I helped carry boxes to his car. When the last one was loaded, Richard went inside to answer a call. Alex turned to me in the driveway. I'll miss this house, he said quietly. I'll miss you. I stepped closer, hugged him. Brief, careful, the way a stepmother should. But my arms lingered. His scent filled my lungs. Take care of yourself. You too. He got in the car, started the engine. As he pulled away I stood on the porch, watching until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Inside Richard was already back at his laptop. Life resumed its rhythm. But something in me had shifted permanently. The emptiness I'd felt before was different now. Sharper, because I knew what it felt like to be wanted, seen, touched with real hunger. I don't regret asking for help that night. I regret how much I still crave the answer.